Welcome to What the Tech, where we cut through the hype to bring you news you can use. Today, we are digging into a massive announcement from carmaker BYD, one that could completely change the game for electric vehicles.
I mean, seriously, look at that headline. It really gets right to the point, doesn't it? BYD is making some incredibly bold claims with its new tech, and they're aiming squarely at all the reasons people say they'll never switch to electric. All right, so let's dive in. To really get why this announcement is such a huge deal, we first have to talk about the core problems, the things that have been holding back EVs for years. And this, right here, this is the heart of it. For 100 years, gas cars have had two killer advantages. You pull into a station, fill up in 5 minutes, and you're good for another, say, 400 miles. But EVs, they've been stuck with long charge times and that dreaded range anxiety, that little voice in your head that's terrified you'll run out of juice in the middle of nowhere. These have always been the biggest deal breakers. And that's where BYD comes in. They've just unveiled two brand new technologies, the Blade Battery 2.0 and something called the Megawatt Flash Charge 2.0. And they claim these two things solve every single one of those problems we just talked about.
Okay, so let's get into the numbers behind these claims, because they're pretty wild. Let's break down what BYD is actually promising with this new Blade battery. First up, range, 621 miles. Just let that sink in for a second. To put that in perspective, a brand new, top-of-the-line Tesla gets about 400 miles. So BYD isn't just trying to match gas cars here. They're trying to blow right past them. Then there's the charging speed. The claim is that you can add about 250 miles of range in just 5 minutes. That's literally the time it takes to run inside a gas station and grab a coffee. The whole idea of a long, boring charging stop could just disappear. And this one might be the most mind-blowing of all. The battery's lifespan. They're guaranteeing it for 745,000 miles. The average person drives around 13,500 miles a year. You do the math. That means this battery could last over 55 years. It's literally designed to outlive the car it's in.
So how on earth is that charging speed even possible? Well, this chart really puts it into perspective. Think of charging power like a water pipe filling a pool. Your charger at home? That's a garden hose, maybe 7 kilowatts. A Tesla supercharger, which we all thought was lightning fast, is more like a fire hose at 250 kilowatts. But BYD's new megawatt charger, that's like opening up a city water main. At 1,500 kilowatts, it is a whole different ballgame. So what's the secret ingredient? It all comes down to the battery chemistry. BYD is using something called lithium iron phosphate, or LFP. For a long time, LFP has been known as the cheaper, safer, and super durable option. But there was always a catch. It just couldn't store as much energy as its competitors. It was the sensible shoes of the battery world.
But BYD is claiming they've cracked the code. They made a couple of key engineering tweaks. First, they figured out how to grind the raw materials into an ultra-fine powder, which lets them pack way more energy into the same space. And second, they basically built little superhighways inside the battery so the electricity can flow more directly. The result? A 36 to 40% jump in energy density. And get this, they say it actually makes the batteries cheaper to produce.
They also tackled LFP's biggest weakness, cold weather. You know how your phone battery dies way faster in the winter? Same thing happens to car batteries. So BYD built in this clever little pulse heating system. It keeps the battery warm, so even at a freezing -4 degrees Fahrenheit, it still holds on to over 85% of its range and can still charge fast. That is a massive deal for anyone who lives where it snows. Okay, let's just take a breath. A 621-mile range, 5-minute charging, a 55-year lifespan. It sounds unbelievable, right? So is it too good to be true? This is where we need to cut through the hype. And hey, if you're finding this breakdown useful, do us a quick favor and hit that like button, subscribe to What the Tech, and tell us what you think in the comments below. But of course, technology this powerful doesn't just exist in a vacuum. So it's time for a reality check on the huge hurdles that stand between these amazing claims and, actually being able to buy one. The truth is, the battery is only one small piece of a very, very complex puzzle. To make this work, we have to talk about the massive impact on the electrical grid, the incredible cost of building all this stuff, making sure cars can even use it, creating new safety standards, and of course, actually proving these claims work in the real world.
Now, to be fair, BYD gets this. They've already laid out a seriously ambitious plan to roll out 15,000 of these chargers in China and another 3,000 in Europe by the end of 2026. That is a monumental task. And here is probably the biggest challenge of all. You can't just plug these chargers in anywhere. Drawing that much power all at once is an immense strain that could literally destabilize a local power grid. Most places will need expensive, heavy-duty upgrades to their electrical substations just to handle one of these charging stations.
So, with all of this in mind, what's the crucial takeaway here? Here's your news you can use, your guide to being a smart consumer and cutting through all the marketing spin. As this story develops, here are the 4 things you should really be watching for. First, demand independent, real-world test results, not just flashy company demos. Second, keep an eye on the infrastructure rollout. The chargers are just as important as the cars. Third, look at the total cost of ownership. What does that warranty really cover? And finally, watch for validation from trusted third parties on safety and long-term durability.
And that really is the bottom line. The technology itself is a huge leap forward, no doubt about it. But its actual impact on the real world? That completely depends on what happens next. It needs to be proven, it needs to be built out, and the rest of the industry has to get on board. So, we'll leave you with this thought. BYD has officially thrown down the gauntlet. They've shown everyone what is now technologically possible and set a new benchmark for what an electric car can be. The big question is no longer if these problems can be solved, but how fast can the rest of the auto industry possibly catch up?